Well, there has been a lot of interesting discussion about this whole property tax dilemma, the property tax debate. City councils and county commission, school districts have been left alone. That's another debate. But what are we going to do about the property tax? We got too much spending going on. City commission say, no, we don't have enough spending going on. And we can't even go down the path of a property tax cut. And there's still a lot of unanswered questions, by the way. And I will tell you, for years as a reporter and as a free market conservative, because I actually became more conservative as a reporter, usually it's the opposite way. I used to cover tax policies here in the state of Florida, budgets, all sorts of gimmickry on how we get this amount and how we don't get that amount, how we create and move things around. And we have got on the table, and I get the pros and cons on both sides of this whole property tax debate. More non-homesteaded property owners out there. What's going to happen to business owners? We've got a 1 to 5 year residency requirement, which means if you move to the state of Florida, you automatically get that $25,000, $50,000 tax exemption. But when it comes to the governor's plan, and there are some good things I like about the governor's plan, and I still got a lot of unanswered questions. If you are within that 1 to 5 year residency requirement, you're screwed, which means your taxes are going up. There's a lot to digest today. And I got clips I want to play. I've played this 1,000 times on my statewide syndicated radio talk show. But we've got to address all of this stuff. Now, we're not going to do it today. But when governments say we have no room to cut, forget about the federal government, forget about the state. And by the way, my party, the Republicans, are just hypocritical on government spending, just as bad as the Democrats. You know, it's funny, and I'm jumping around right now, but it's really entertaining that we've got Republicans in Tallahassee, elected officials that are telling local municipalities, you got to control your spending. You got to do something with your budgets. And yet every year, the pork barrel spending continues to jack up. The member projects continue to roll. And guess who runs that whole show? Not the Democrats. It's the Republicans. A little hypocrisy, just a little bit going on. And if you think that all of the groups against the governor's plan, and I got a lot of questions, and I felt that as I'm a DeSantis guy, I felt that this could have been done much better. Okay? And I understand the arguments are going to have about local control versus state control. I count me in on that one. But we've got hypocrisy going on. It's not a fair balance of what's going on with our tax situation here in Florida. I get it. People are pissed off. They're paying a lot with property insurance. By the way, do you see your property insurance going down? We blame the trial lobby. And yet, the only thing that's driving it down is because the government has put a couple of billion in a fund to help reinsurance. So is it really the marketplace? And if you really want to bring costs down, you bring more insurance companies come in. Does a little bit of tort help out? I don't think there's an argument against that, but not to what some of my Republican friends were talking about. I don't know one person that listens to my radio show or watches this here that's bragging about their property insurance. I mean, it went through the roof 36% over the last 4 years. I got a 6% reduction. No, you're still paying 30% more. There is a lot of things that we've got to talk about. And this whole property tax debate, I like some of it. It is an instant tax cut for many of you. It's not one of these, well, over 4 to 5 years, we're going to give you a tax break. No, we're talking within a year to 2 years. It's $250,000 can save thousands of dollars for a lot of property owners here in the state of Florida. But who's going to pay for it? City governments can't control their freaking spending out there. And by the way, I blame a lot of voters on this. It is not Tallahassee's role or Tallahassee's job to come in and tell local control after you give them, local control to set and local environmental regulations and planning and zoning and board of adjustments. Local school districts put into place many times areas dealing with policies. That's why you have a local school district. If Tallahassee believes that local municipalities are not doing a good enough job, then why in the blue heck am I electing city commissioners and county commissioners then? Why don't you just have it top heavy and have Tallahassee run everything? We have gotten millions of dollars that have come into the coffers of cities and counties from COVID spending. And I, as a reporter, used to ask many of these individuals, you spent millions, you spent thousands on COVID related. What's going to happen when the money runs out? Well, we'll address that when it happens. Or it's like 2000, 2008. We don't think property values are going to go down. I covered that. You saw what happened. I want to play for you some clips. First off, let's give the backdrop to everybody. And what we may not discuss today, we will certainly discuss with a whole lot of other issues down the road with our guest here on the Florida Daily Show. Here is the backdrop. Clip number 1 of what has been approved, and as of now, unless something changes, what will go on the November ballot. This is Fox News 13 out of Tampa.
Your property tax bill could be dropping dramatically, but it does come with a hefty price tag for our local cities and our local county governments. This massive tax cut amendment is officially heading to the November ballot. If it's approved by 60% of voters, it will ultimately boost homestead exemptions to $250,000 by 2028. While homeowners could save big, the plan is expected to cut local government revenues by more than $8 billion a year. Opponents argue those tough decisions, though, could mean deep cuts to police, fire, and core services, or shift the tax burden directly to renters and businesses. The proposal here also slashes the annual assessment cap on apartments and commercial properties by half.
Okay, so we're not going to address all of this today, but let's talk about this. Wall Street Journal, I subscribe to the Wall Street Journal, one of my favorite publications. I didn't think it was too cool of them to kind of refer to the governor's tax plan like Madami from New York. That was a little too far stretched. But the Wall Street Journal did bring up some valid points. I mean, they didn't throw the tax plan under the bus. They burned it to the ground. And some of the stuff that's not being addressed, non-ad valorem taxes, fire assessment fees, garbage, sewage, water, higher parking fees. You want to go park down at the beach, you're going to pay more in parking tolls. What about higher user fees for city leagues and ball games? I've heard it all. It will happen as far as the threats coming from those that oppose this. And I think it's a worthwhile debate to have this. Just don't write the concerns off, folks. And don't write the concerns off that city government isn't spending too much money. Address it all. But there is a lot of questions. I like going, hey, man, a lot of people can keep their money in the property tax. But what about businesses? Businesses, the only thing that's happening is instead of having a 10% assessment, it's going to drop down to 5%. In other words, their value is still going to go up, which means they're going to pay more property taxes. Higher, yes. Have you ever noticed that the biggest beneficiary, I had people trying to argue with me on the radio show about this. Do you know that the biggest beneficiary of you improving your home, unless you're selling it, isn't you? It's the government. Because when the property appraiser comes out and says, man, you really did some work on your house, your value goes up. Unless it's a rollback, guess what happens to your taxes? That goes up as well. Well, Ed, there's a 3% cap on the 3% cap on the assessed value, but that still can drive up your cost by hundreds of $1,000s a year. And by the way, what about the 1 to 5 year residency requirement? What about somebody who's moved here, has been here for 2 years, they plan to stay here, they've got a long-term contract, they've started a company, the company's got a contract with whoever, it's going to be around, can they get a tax break with this as well? No. And by the way, that might help with what the affordability issue. By the way, you know what the affordability issue is? It's called a housing supply. The housing supply is what the problem is here. And yet the government's going to throw more money at this. We don't need to be throwing more money. I mean, cut the capital gains tax, cut some regulations. See, if we got a hold of property insurance, we probably wouldn't have been having this tax debate issue, which I'm still in favor of one way or the other. But I think it would help out the housing supply. Hey, I'm getting a tax break. Here's a family that says, hey, I need income. Maybe I want to retire. I want to sell my home. But I don't want to move to another house. And the portability issue. I mean, I think it would help out. I'm not saying it would fix it. But anything would help. And yet I understand the concerns from the other side. Who's going to pay for this? Who's going to pay for that? And you know why that is a concern? Because city governments and county commissions and school districts cannot control their own spending. They knew this was coming. Yes, as a free market reporter, I mean, as a journalist, as a publisher, I'm a free market conservative. But folks, we got to call both sides here. We got to call it everywhere what we see. I get the pros and I get the cons of the property tax situation. Well, Ed, we're going to lose a lot of revenue. Maybe we need to have the debate of worthwhile projects, and I get it. But what is worthwhile and what is essential? Like COVID, you're an essential worker out there. Do we need all of these millions of dollars that go into charities? Do we need to have all of these millions of dollars going to parks and going to sporting stadiums and swimming pools? I'm using low-hanging fruit. New libraries out. Do we need all of that? Do we need to be giving direct, not tax incentives like we used to do back in the old days, but do we have direct taxpayer dollars going to builders and developers that we're going to pay you to? Well, wait a second. Why don't we just give them tax incentives and tax abatements and tax breaks? That's what we used to do years ago. No, we're actually going to give you direct dollars. Well, what if they don't come through? Guess who's got to pay for that? You, the taxpayer. Folks, I'm all over the map on this because evidently this debate on property taxes and spending has been all over the map. Here we go. Let's play some more clips out there. Democrat from St. Pete, Mayor Ken Welch, says, OMG. And they were told this was going to touch fire and police. But fire and police, and I love the men in blue, and I support them. I think they're going to come out against this. But they're saying that, well, for future dollars of future benefits, we won't be able to pay for it because of the property tax cuts.
Property taxes go to fund police and fire. 100% of our property taxes go to fund and police and fire.
He says 100% of their property taxes go to fund police and fire.
They don't even fund all of that. And so if the legislature is saying we're going to cut, $78 million of your property taxes and still require you to keep police and fire service, that means everything else is on the table, whether it's housing or arts funding or...
Well, wait, okay, hold on, wait. I'll get to that. Wait, so you mean to tell me that there isn't enough money from St. Pete, which is a very wealthy area? You mean to tell me there's not enough money to pay for fire and police? What more are you paying for? Maybe we need to address some of our unions and our retirement and our pension systems. That's another topic. But listen to what else the Democratic mayor said out there of what else is going to get touched if we go down the path of property tax cuts.
Is on the table, whether it's housing or arts funding or our parks. There'll have to be significant cuts, and folks need to understand that.
Okay, can we stop here? Why in the world do I need to have taxpayer dollars to go pay for the arts? Why don't we allow more private sector and have more of the business community to help fund the arts? You'd be surprised how much money NPR raises. We did a story about this about a year ago. Oh my gosh, NPR, we're not going to make it, folks. If they were to divulge their donor list, I will tell you they get more money from donors than they do from the government. And if they're getting more money from the government, then we've really got a problem, which shows that you guys can't make it on your own. NPR has got a huge donor list. I've seen their offices in the state of Florida. But I digress. Oh, man, fire and police. And we're going to, by the way, they'd love to throw in schools if they could. And I'm sure they will. They'll find a way. But we're going to cut everything. Even the Democratic mayor is being challenged by another Democrat known as Charlie Crist. Charlie Crist is a registered Democrat. Now he's running more as a moderate. He's talking about supporting some property tax cuts. He's talking about we've spent too much. One Democrat's telling the other Democratic mayor, hey, we're doing too much here. I understand he's running for office. But yet, when you listen to these mayors, and I don't want to beat it's just up on the Democrats. I can't tell you, I'm trying to find out how many Republicans are actually for this plan on a local election level. Here we go. Democratic mayor of Jacksonville, Donna Deegan, OMG. And by the way, folks, this is a great script. She put, the cake, she put the ice cream, the whipped cream, and the sprinkles on top. The Reese's Pieces. I mean, this sounds credible. OMG, we're going to have to cut everything.
This proposed reduction will inevitably result in roads deteriorating, libraries, pools, and parks closing, public safety response times going up,
Oh,
housing affordability worsening, and more homeless on our streets.
wait
The
a second.
nurses-
Wait, whoa. Play that part one more time.
Housing affordability worsening and more homeless on our streets.
Wait a second. Why would homelessness get worse? This is the same mayor that went from 3 to proposing $10 million to fix the homeless. I can tell you, I can do it less than $1 million. I need to run for mayor. It's called Greyhound. Give them a one-way bus ticket to the flip out of Dodge like they do in the old days. And if they come back, we're going to, you know how you take care of the homeless problem? Dress up like a job for Halloween, scare the crap out of all of them. Put them to work. And then the mayor says, well, we're not going to address affordability because the government is subsidizing areas of affordability, which means when the government's involved, it's artificially set that, hey, this is what it's going to be. This way. No, what you want to do is get the government out of the way and help people find a job and a part-time job. And the problem is that we need to find people that can move into these homes. You got to have renters as well. More clips from the mayor. Oh, man, the homeless problem is going to increase. Affordability. Because evidently these big city Florida mayors, these Democratic mayors, think that the only way they can get economic performance in their town is more of your tax dollars being spent.
It's going up. Housing affordability worsening and more homeless on our streets. The nurse whose rent will go up. The teacher whose property insurance skyrockets because, well, we can't build that fire station close to her house. Those are just the facts.
By the way, I would love one of my insurance guys, I'd love to find out how many houses near a fire station would see overall their property values. Well, wait, their property insurance drop. Oh, wait, from a fire? No, I'm talking like hurricanes and damaging winds. I got to give it to Mayor Deegan. I mean, she put it on pretty smooth, didn't she? Folks, they took a crap load of COVID spending money. They were told, like the floods with Noah, the rain's coming. Nobody bought into it. And then you saw what happened. If I can use a little Bible reference there. They were told with COVID, the money was going to run out. Like the housing. The markets were going to go down in 2007, 2008. Housing can't crash. We saw what happened. Now, we need to talk about what is considered essential versus worthwhile out there. And yet, let us go back to the tape. July 2021, then Republican Jacksonville, you think I'm beating on the Democrats, then Jacksonville Mayor Lenny Curry. Wait till you hear this clip. Millions of dollars coming in to Florida. That was billions, by the way. Millions coming in all of these cities here in Florida. And what do we do with the money? By the way, these cities also jacked up at the same time your property taxes, your gas tax, and the sales tax, while still getting millions of dollars from state and federal governments. July 2021, here we are. The mayor, Lenny Curry, proposed $100 million just in a year to 2 years for brand new parks and brand new libraries.
$50 million this year for parks, pools, libraries, and other quality of life enhancements.
Oh,
And another $50 million in year 2.
that's $100 million right there for quality of life projects. Oh, my gosh. Now you see why I cover all this. That's why our publication covers all of this. It's a bunch of crap and a bunch of BS. That was from a Republican. You heard it. $100 million within 2 freaking years. Why do I need more parks? Why do I need more libraries? It's amazing how many Democrats email me, Ed, listen, we could help out the homeless, but we don't need any more parks out there. Folks, we got to propose folks, this is low-hanging fruit. We're talking $100 million just for parks, libraries. And you mean to tell me we don't have money to waste? Here's another clip. WJXT. The mayor, again, Just on one park alone, $25 million.
This vacant lot where the landing once stood could be Mayor Curry's signature on Jacksonville. As part of his final budget, he's proposing a $25 million investment for a new park. He's also budgeting $15 million for Met Park renovations.
15 for one park, 25 for a brand new park. And you mean to tell me you can't find any ways to cut? I'm not going to do all of this today. Excuse me. I'm just going to tell you, I get the pros on the property tax. Many of you need money. I get it. And I get the argument. What are you going to replace it with? Well, Ed, if the cities can, hey, shoulda, woulda, coulda, if, yeah, let me go ahead and throw money on the overs and unders. When's the last time your city government cut money? Maybe 2008, 2009 during the Great Recession. And I covered it, and they even screwed around with the numbers on that. And there's some things I don't like about the property tax proposal. The residency requirement. I don't know if the court's going to actually approve that part. And then somebody's got to pick up the tab, which are business owners. Doesn't do anything with non-homestead property owners. And by the way, not all of those people live outside of the state or they live outside of the country. A lot of those are ma and pa that I go to church with that had a retirement. They put some money away. They wanted monthly income. And so they bought some retirement homes and then, not retirement homes like ALF facilities, but they bought something as to use for a retirement. They rent it out. Not a lot of income, but it pays the bills. Who helps some people out? It's not properly laid out. I think that I would have loved to see the year debate last year that we were promised by Danny Perez. I get along with Danny. Don't mean to single him out, but the Republicans last year promised me the summer tour of town hall meetings to discuss this debate. Never happened. And then the governor decided to do it within 3 days. Let's just get in and get out. And I really wonder if many of those in Tallahassee really want to see this go through. I think they just did it so they all can run for a higher office, knowing that they may not get the 60%. By the way, is this really going to get 60%? Because there's more voters out there that will not be affected. I mean, how many people have homesteaded property owners? I mean, if there are more non-homesteaded property owners out there and you include renters, that kind of outdoes those that would benefit from this. If the city governments would cut their budgets and have a real debate of we get what we like, but what is really essential? Do you really need any more frickin' parks? Do you really, with the age of the computers and laptops, do you need more libraries out there? I get the argument. I get the argument from both sides because that's my role as a reporter. I cover both sides. I understand people need money, the tax reform. Folks, the reason why they want property tax reform, because they haven't seen their property insurance go down to what they were told. I said property insurance. I could spend a whole hour on this. And we need to do something. I understand inside the legislation, well, we're going to have some sort of mechanism and how much the cities can raise here. Right? Folks, they're going to find a way. What I'm saying is, what happened to local voters? What happened to all of you out there that brag on the Republican Party, especially in my party? We got to be the party of less spending and less taxes. And yet, we vote for the people. You think Democrats got us all into the deep mess? No, Republicans have done it on local levels. We'll just call it the way it is. Democrats aren't for any type of property tax cuts or any reduction in spending. And Republicans are supposed to be the other side representing good faith, accountability for taxpayers, and we don't see it. I've covered them for years. So we're going to have this debate. I'm going to have the panel discussions. I'm going to have the property rights people, the property tax people versus the League of Cities. I'll do it because it needs to be discussed. Because we've been robbed, folks. We were supposed to have this whole 8 months worth of debate, and the Republicans, my party, decided not to do it because they've got an itch fest with the governor. And I would have liked to see the governor take the lead on some of this stuff. Well, I don't want to put anything in a proposal. No one might get shot down. Hey, Governor, sometimes many of your proposals that brought up, unfortunately, got shot down. That's the way it is. So I've got thousands of these clips of elected officials can't cut spending. What are you going to do with the extra $50 to $60 million? Not going to give it back in tax break. Put it away for a rainy fund so we can spend it for another day. And by the way, real quick, this whole Doge thing, which I support, by the way, but Blaze, the CFO, has got to start giving some specifics. It's amazing watch, again, Democrats and some of these Republicans, we got to do something about spending, but yet you voted for all these budgets over the last several years that jacked up all this spending. We're going to have the debate here. We need to have this debate because evidently everybody else is having it late in the game, and we've been doing it for the last year, year and a half. I'm not out there saying the sky is going to fall. The governor's got an interesting point, a valid point. How do we go from $32 billion 6-7 years ago now to $68 billion or $60 billion? Well, Ed, more people have moved in. I get that. But not everybody's using everybody's government service. Usually the general rule is the law of large numbers. More people come in, either stabilize or help lower the cost. Evidently, we've gotten a major influx that's come in, hasn't done it. Or, I mean, maybe it has. We're just taking the money instead of helping lower the cost. We're just blowing it. I know there's nothing perfect. You want a balanced approach. No, somebody's going to win and somebody's going to get less of a win. Nothing's balanced. But we're going to have this discussion and we're going to continue to have this debate. We'll see you next time right here on the Florida Daily Show.